Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Shift Happens podcast. Here, each week, we sit down with senior leaders from across the industry to uncover the real stories behind managing change. From breakthrough wins to tough lessons learned, we dive deep into what it really takes to lead through uncertainty. So, whether you're a leader going through transformation or just love a good story about disruption, strategy, and resilience, you are in the right place. Because when shift happens, great leaders rise. Before we dive into the show, here's a quick word from our sponsor. Are you a leader navigating constant change and your team is looking to you for answers you don't have yet? The Change Leader program is here to help. At Tona Business, we work with leaders to turn chaos into clarity, retain your best people, and lead through disruption without losing trust, momentum, or your own sanity. So if you're facing restructuring, AI shifts, disengagement, or just need your people to rally behind you again, let's talk. Reach out or head over to tonabusiness.com to find out more. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Elizabeth Osborne, COO and CIO at Great Lakes Credit Union. Her strategic insights, data-driven decision-making, and process improvement expertise are instrumental to drive innovation. Recognized by American Banker as one of the most powerful women in credit unions in both 23 and 24, she leads transformation with purpose and impact. In this episode, she shares how she navigates change and shapes the future of financial services. Let's dive in. Welcome, Elizabeth. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Camilla. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. So, to start, Elizabeth, tell us a little bit about yourself, your experience, and your current role.
Sure, absolutely. So I actually started my career in the restaurant industry. I oversaw operations training. And so that actually was a really good starting point for me to understand change management, project management, because I set up teams and helped open about 60 restaurants throughout the country. So it was very exciting. And then ended up after college transitioning to banking. And so I've had a career working for large banks, smaller community savings banks, regional banks, but the two commonalities, I should say, has really been project change management and also technology. And so currently I'm the COO for Great Lakes Credit Union. I wear a lot of hats, so I oversee technology. So oversee more of the technology digital side, so hardware, software, network, cyber, all that kind of stuff, as well as a PMO team, project management team. I also oversee deposit operations and servicing, as well as product management for deposits. So I've been here almost 4 years. It's in the Chicagoland area, and I'm thrilled to be here. Found a good landing spot.
Oh, that's great. And that's an impressive background. Thank you for sharing that. You mentioned the change management very early in your career. And I wonder, that change already, managing change has been with you and all the learnings and all of that throughout probably most of your career. I would like to ask you if you would share with us any impactful change moment that you had a chance to be part of or that you led in an organization.
Yeah, absolutely. I can speak to probably the first instance I had here at Great Lakes because it's a good story. So one of the reasons I was brought on to Great Lakes Credit Union was they had so they still have a newer CEO. So Steve Bug, who's my boss, he's been here I think 6 years now, and but at the time he was newer, and it's a credit union that had been pretty more just kind of letting things flow, right? Had not made a lot of investments in infrastructure, technology, people. And so when he took over and really took the reins, he recognized really quickly that, well, we need to spend a lot of time on getting things done and we need to get it done fast. So we need to become competitive, but we also need a lot of catch up. And so when I was brought on, I was asked to help figure out how to convert to a brand new online banking platform, as well as a mobile app upgrade. So the impact was to about 50% of our membership base. At the time, we had around, I think, 85,000 members. And so I quickly jumped in and tried to just get to know the team. So I was trying to understand roles, responsibilities. And so one of the teams was called a business process enhancements or changes. I can't efficiencies, business process efficiencies. This group, this core team, they were the ones that everyone dumped work on. They were like, yeah, we need this done. There you go. You get that done. And so they were really great employees, really great people, but they didn't have structure. And so the first task I did, I made a presentation first to Steve and then to the board to transition and evolve that team to a true project management office with a charter, templates, a defined process, and training. That was, everyone was fully bought in. I had the full support of leadership and the board. I was very fortunate for that because they were also getting to know me. I was very new, as in the first month of my career. And so I made an offer to this woman, Cassie, who's still on my team, and she is a superstar, to lead this new PMO. And we brought on some new teams and we built up this group. And so we actually used the online banking and mobile app project, that change, as a true test to prove the effectiveness of a PMO. And we did just that. We converted on time. We supported our members. We had a lot of learnings, but there was so much we took away from that. So that really helped us to gain that buy-in across the organization and also with our board of directors.
Wow, that's a very nice story. I love the word structure, because sometimes, yes, people, they want to do the right thing. But then when you don't have the guidance and the right structure to do things can get very chaotic sometimes, right? And just bringing that, you mentioned the charter, the template, and all of that, that made totally a big difference for you to drive you all to success in the right timing, even, right? Yeah,
absolutely.
Yes, that's very nice example. So what kind of challenges normally you face? Could be in this example or any other example, or have you faced before when driving change?
Absolutely. So when I will tell you what I expected coming into this role is not what I experienced, because my past experience, I can speak to actually a community savings bank in Boston. I was the CIO there for about 8 years. And when I joined that institution, it was a great bank. They had just gone public. And so brand new executive team, took a very well-established older bank to a publicly traded company and entity. And so I was faced with a lot of challenges to get buy-in and investments, because very similar to Great Lakes, they were a bit behind, had not invested in the infrastructure. So especially with technology and vendor management wasn't well thought out. So we just had a lot of opportunity there. And so I was faced with a ton of pushback, like, whoa, we can't spend that kind of money. We can't bring these people on, because it's very focused on the bottom line. And so I learned a lot about myself in that role and tried a lot of techniques that some worked, some didn't, but really trying to get that buy-in. And so fortunately, as I continued in that role, as I delivered results, I gained that buy-in. So it became a lot easier to get investments and support for different changes that were needed.
And you mentioned techniques. Any kind of techniques that comes into your mind that would you like to share with the audience that helped you to be successful in the endeavor?
Absolutely. So a few of them, actually. So one is, you got to find your cheerleaders. You got to find the people that are on your team or in the organization that are going to really rally the why. Because adults need to know the why. You can't just tell them to do something, they're just going to do it. You have to explain it to them. And then there's a lot of convincing. It's almost like you're a salesperson. My husband actually makes a joke all the time that he thinks I should do commercials, because when I'm like into something, I can sell it like no tomorrow. And I've never been a salesperson, but I am very convincing. And so
you do great.
Thanks. And so I've always tried to find those people that really believe in the mission and vision. And so I work with them to make sure we have super consistent messaging. I actually call it like the elevator pitch. You got to know what you're doing and the why, and should be able to say it with confidence within 20 seconds. So if anyone's like, oh, I don't know why we're doing that, you can quickly respond with, let me tell you why this is important. Let me explain to you the benefits you're going to see. And it becomes, as you consistently say this message over and over again, it starts to sink in. And then slowly, if you continue with that communication and consistency, you get that buy-in.
And all the roles of the organization saying the same thing, right? Bringing this alignment, that's so important too.
Absolutely. It's so important.
Well, I love it. And you mentioned about messaging elevator speech, and I love the concept. But talking about messaging a little bit, would you have any advice in terms of how to communicate well in times of change, especially?
I say positivity is important. And so it's not just what you say, it's how you say it in your body language, which is really important. So you want to make sure that, I just did a women's leadership conference a couple weeks ago, and I talked about the Superwoman pose, right? Like doing the Superwoman pose, get your hands, take that deep breath, throw your shoulders back, and get ready for that conversation. And sometimes you need to do that, especially if you're going before maybe a board or your boss or a group of leaders, and you want to really display a message. But that confidence and looking someone in the eye and speaking in a clear way at the right tone and pace is really important. And so being aware of that, and it's something that takes practice. You have to keep practicing it, practice in the bathroom mirror, I like to practice things in my car as I'm driving into work or from work. It's just helps you just say it with ease and to help get the message out. So that's one piece of it. The other piece is really just making sure that what you're saying is consistent. So you're using the same reasons. So if when you document maybe a business case, or you're defining why an investment or change is so important, pick out those keywords that are going to help really gain that understanding and buy-in the most. Maybe it's efficiency, maybe it's security, possibly growth, right? Or it could be something that's going to drive income. Whatever the case, whatever is important to your company's mission and strategy, tie that into what you're saying so that they align. It's a lot easier to get that buy-in then.
I agree. And I need to take a moment just to mention what you said around the confidence and the posture. And now I need to share something with you, because I think for our women, for the female audience here in the show, years ago when I was starting my career, you see how interesting that is. I had the habit to do this, but I was trying to feel empowered. I don't know exactly. I had this body language, and one time one person told me that I should stop because I would intimidate people if I would do like that. So you see how interesting. And maybe as women in the work environment, I came from a background in engineering and chemical industry, and back on those days was mostly men. Right now it's much more diverse in many ways, but that got me like, okay, and then I started just to put my hands, back like that, and I just felt I don't know, I felt weird because I was not really being myself on my posture. I love when you say that, because years later I started to do that again, because I thought, you know what, I'm just being me. I'm not offending anyone, and yes, I feel confident, and I'm going to do that. And I started to do, and now you say that, it feels good, because it's like, okay, maybe I just got the wrong feedback from someone that, I don't know, had a good intention even to help me, right? And ended up not helping much. But I love what you're saying. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that story. And while times are changing, they're not where they should be, but they are changing. And I think, so both the restaurant industry and the banking financial services that I'm in now, they continue to be so male dominated. The C-suite at Great Lakes, I'm one of 8, and I'm the only female.
I
Okay.
see.
So not uncommon. I'm very fortunate. I work with really great, other male counterparts, and we learn from each other. But it's definitely evolved and changed over time, and it's taken time to get that confidence. I definitely, and some of it too. When you mentioned, they said not to put like your hands on your hips, right? Give the wrong message. Well, today, okay, but if you're doing that with a smile, you're looking in the eye, and you're engaging in conversation, it's a very different type of atmosphere that you're building and a relationship that you're building with them. I think you have people that are a little intimidated by it, but I don't think that's such a bad thing sometimes.
Yes, I mean, that was inspiring to me. I do appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad.
Yes. So as we think about this environment, and not only from a female perspective, now going more also through the change management part, you probably face resistance on the way. So any advice on how to manage resistance?
So typically, I would say it really depends on what is causing resistance. So sometimes, like currently right now, we're just at Great Lakes Trading, we have a lot going on. And so our stakeholders, some of the more senior leaders that are like department heads or others that are doing a lot of the work, like, hey, it's so much work. Like I just can't get this all done. And so the guidance I give my team, my directs, but also for the project team, is that we have to have a conversation. We need to talk about what else is happening, because if the amount or volume of work, which I'm hearing this throughout the industry, there's so much happening. We are working so hard to just maintain competitiveness, and we still need to get ahead. So I think the work volume is not going to change, but our attitude and our approach can change. And so knowing what your priorities are and helping to really focus on that is a lot of times a good discussion. So I guide my teams to talk through it. If you're concerned, if you know you only have 40 hours in a week and you have 50 hours of work, then you got to have a conversation with your boss about that, right? And if your boss isn't able to do it, they need to talk to their executive leader or whomever. So that's one piece. Sometimes the resistance is that they just don't buy into it. Right? It could be that they maybe the project or initiative is not in alignment with their values or goals. And so that's why it's always important to bring it back to the strategy. And so, most organizations I work for, we spend a lot of time on a strategy, and it's typically like a 3 or 5 year strategy. And we really define that 1 year, right? Really focus on it. And then all your objectives and initiatives should align with that strategy. So a lot of times leaders have to go back and say, let's talk about why this is important and why we're doing it. It is to drive membership growth, or it's to increase efficiencies, or whatever the case, right? And reminding them that consistently. And then also with my PMO group, what we focus on a lot is gaining agreement and commitment at the beginning of a project through a document that we call a pod. It's a project overview document. The pod captures the scope, the purpose, the vision, the goals, and all the people involved, timeline, the risks, any issues that we're aware of, and vendors and partners that are needed. So it's a big document, and we have it where all the primary stakeholders have to sign off on it, because that's that at that point they're saying, I agree with this scope of this agreement. I agree that we're going to deliver this change. And once that's signed off, it's a done deal. And that's really helped get people on the same page.
Oh, I see. It's almost like a project plan, but more formal.
Yes.
With deliverables, timelines, and all of that, but with the signatures.
Exactly. Yes. And that is the starting point. The next step is the project plan, because then you go into that detail, really get those critical phases and milestones from the pod, from the project overview document, that help them drive that and build it.
And also, I wonder from a communication standpoint, right, as you have this certain change project going on, and you have the sponsorship from top down, that probably reinforces and helps people to understand how important that is for the organization, right?
Exactly. Spot on. That's it. Because in the communication plan is one of those critical milestones from the pod. And so then the marketing team or whoever is running communication for you can go back to that pod to say, okay, why are we doing this? How are we doing it? And what do we expect out of it? So also, what are the measurable, like the measurements of success for it? And that helps to determine who to communicate to. Also, impact analysis is in there. That's important to find out. Members, is it your customers impacted? Are there systems? And that helps really drive the scope of that communication plan too.
Yeah, that's great. One of the things that I like to do when we do communication plan is also to define the impact of the stakeholders, like low, medium, high, and then we can define even the frequency and the ways to approach. And one of the things that I also love to do that I like to share, Elizabeth, is when you do a message, you think about how would you like people to feel, and what do you want them to do? What is the message? How would you like them to feel? And what do you want them to do? The call to action. And these things I think are so helpful when you think about the changes and who are impacted. And obviously, in part of the what, I think the why is extremely important, just to reinforce the reason for the change, huh?
Absolutely. I love that. I want to add that to our pod. That's so important.
It is good, right? When I learned that in the previous company I worked for, from that moment and on, I just started to use in all my projects, every time that involves communication, because it's just easy to remember. As you have, I like, for example, and I love spreadsheets, right? Maybe it's the engineering part, the analytical part of me still, right? But yeah, I just put, the high level roles, how much they are impacted. And then depending on that, we put the frequency and even the channels. And then we put the what and the how. Do you want them know, feel, and do, basically, right? So.
Love it. Do you mind if I steal that?
No, of course. I mean, I love it, and I shared that with another in another interview. He actually sent me a message the other day saying, "Oh, I'm using that," so I'm glad it's working.
That's great. Oh, very good. Thank you. Oh, yeah. I know Cassie, the woman I was speaking to, she's going to be all about that. So it helps.
That's great. Yes. All right. Happy to share. All right. So thinking about all that and now shifting gears in terms of the vision, how do you see the future of the industry, right? What does it take to get there, to be successful in this future?
So the word that comes to mind is nimble and pivot, those two words actually. So in banking in particular, there's a lot of unknowns right now, especially, think about with the not to get to political or anything, but the current administration and the changes that are being made at the regulatory bodies for banks and credit unions. There's a lot happening there. So it's a lot of unknown. And so it's important for us as leaders to think, okay, what's my circle of control?
Yes.
That's outside my circle of control, but I can make sure that we know how to pivot, adjust as changes occur. And so that's going to be really important. I think that flexibility is going to continue to be so necessary, especially for leaders, because it goes back to when there's a lot of unknowns, then you have a lot of unease with employees. And then they start questioning, well, what's going to happen to us in the future? And how is this going to impact my job? Am I still going to have a job? Or what, will, this new technology take over? Whatever the case, right? So you have to make sure you're able to talk through it with them, but also that you have a strategy that can adjust as your market and the industry adjusts also. So another thing that came to mind with this is that when it comes to your strategy, a lot of companies make their strategy, document it, put it in place, and they don't revisit it until a year later. And that just doesn't work. We're moving way too fast. And so it's so important that you go back and revisit it every quarter. If not every quarter, at least twice a year, to go back and say, okay, is this still important to us? Does this still align with what we're doing? Do we have the right priorities and the right initiatives to drive that? Do we need to change something? And that's something that we've been doing at the executive level at Great Lakes, actually more recently too, just because when we defined our strategy for this year, it was a different world. And things come up, especially like we're doing a lot of work in M&A. So there were some things that were unknown to set our strategy. So we have to readjust it. You can't get everything done. Can't be everything for everyone. And so I think nimble and pivot and flexibility, those are my key words, and it's got to be top of mind for all leaders.
Yes, I agree with you. And it's interesting, when I started my career 24 years ago, I remember when we were talking about strategy revisiting every 2 years or so. And that sounded good enough, right, for that time. And it's interesting now what I see, most of my clients is at least twice a year. That's what I consider, what I've seen as best practices. Normally, like, November, and then around May, June, for the second half, make adjustments, and communicate accordingly. But you said even quarterly, and might be something maybe as a good practice to start taking. First time I hear the quarterly basis, but yes, things are moving so fast.
They are moving so fast. You have to have a leader that's really keeping a close eye on it to say, hey, this changed. It's now, this is now conflicting or at more of a, like, it's something we need to reconsider for your staff, because maybe the key people that are driving this initiative for this strategy are now being asked to drive this initiative for this strategy, and the time commitment is now too large. And so then you're putting quality and delivery and execution at risk. And you can't, those are things you have to keep top of mind. You cannot diminish quality because that impacts your reputation. And so that's so important. So having that as someone that's typically, because I oversee PMOs, we have like a centralized database. So I bring that to the executive team, say, hey, this is where we were, this is what's changed, now something's got to give. And so let's talk through how we handle that. And so I work with a great team of leaders that were very open to it. But it's not easy, because we all want to get our own initiatives done. And so sometimes you got to kind of hash it out and figure out how to get through it. But
yes, what you're saying reminds me a company, a very big company that I work for, and it was eventually you see in a pipeline over 50 key initiatives, 50. And it's like, okay, how will you deliver that? It's impossible. Yeah, big team, but then I think, and to your point, and maybe in the quarterly meetings, like, okay, we have this strategy, we have these key initiatives, maybe we reprioritize and have this group of people thinking why you should reprioritize and assess again and get feedback, right? I think reprioritization is something that is so helpful in situations like that. And listening to people and understanding that, priorities also change.
Absolutely. And this is where then it ties into the importance of communication, kind of where we start the conversation. And also important then to explain why to your teams, because a lot of times what I see is we may, at the executive level, we may make decisions and then we share it with our directs, but sometimes that message gets lost, right? Or it's understood differently. It's kind of like the telephone game, right? It's
yes.
change, and what you said may not be how it's understood when it gets to maybe like more your, like the people that are really speaking to our members, like our member facing teams, right? Yes. So you have to make sure that they understand it too. So it's important that communication, not just for change, but also with strategy and adjustments, that the understanding of why is so important, so they can help explain that too.
Now you gave me an idea. In the next workshop I do about communication, we can play that game and see how it goes, and then we can start. That's a good way for icebreaker, don't you think?
I love it. Yeah.
Always happens, right?
Oh, completely. Guaranteed. It's what ends up is not going to be where you started.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. That's amazing. All right. Well, I took so many notes on so many great things you said, and I'm sure we are going to summarize in the show notes so we don't miss all these key elements that you shared with us today. But I just have one more question to wrap up our conversation today, which is, if you would summarize what does it take to be successful? And in terms of your journey, your successful journey, what are the key things that you think that you did and you still do to be successful?
Yes. So I would say be relentless in your communication, communication to your teams as a leader, communication to other leaders and your board to make sure that your message is heard and that message is consistent. That is absolutely 100% the number one way to get it done. But then also, it's important that you share that communication and that clarity in terms of why it's important for your organization. Sharing that with your partners. A lot of organizations are really dependent on third parties. We call them fintechs in banking, so financial technologies. So if what they're delivering and offering doesn't align with where you're going, then that's a mismatch. And so they may not be the right partner. So it's important to get your partners on board too. And then the last I'd say is the world is changing and you have to evolve with it. So those that are resistant to change are not going to last. So figure out how to make it work, how to buy in, find your friends, those cheerleaders are going to help you get it done and drive that change.
I love it. And the cheerleaders is a word that I'm also, if you don't mind, I'm going to steal from you. I
Please.
love the word because, yes, sometimes we say supporters and things. No, cheerleaders is much more exciting, you know. It comes with celebration, which is so important as well as you go through these big initiatives and really look back and see the progress and the great results that some of these initiatives, you know, you can have. So, wow, thank you so much. I love talking to you. It was so nice to meet you. I do appreciate your time today.
You as well, Camilla. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, see you next time. Shift Happens podcast. You all take care.